So, the purpose-guided universe. I had so high hopes for this, a scientific way to tell us why the universe was created by an intelligent being, but I was so disappointed. This is not a scientific way to prove anything, it's proving things. The beginning started strong, explaining some theories, quantum mechanics, string theory, some quantum physics, just some ideas, and I did enjoy wrapping my head around these theories, although I did have to watch a couple of videos because I was lacking the basics to understand what the author was writing about, but that was okay. My main issue came when the author is basing his proof on a thesis that is based on a thesis that is based on a thesis. And at one point, at no point do we prove a thesis or disprove other theses. The author just selects things that they want to include and selects things that they want to actively not include, but doesn't give a proper reason. And this is then their proof, and it just feels so... it doesn't feel really scientific at all. It's not a scientific approach. It's just, well, we have this idea, so based on this idea, also this idea could be an option. So there's my proof, and that's not how it works. And then based on that this idea could be an option, it's obviously proof that this idea is an option. So obviously this option is true. I'm like, what? Where did you prove it along the way? Or disprove other things for being wrong? Nowhere. And what really ticked me off was when the author started being very selective with what they include or exclude. So he's very heavy on the perennials philosophy, and he's pretty much saying that it is important not to get sidetracked by this terminology or its cultural connotations. I put no credence whatsoever in the vast Hindu pantheon of deities and entities numbering over 300 million that has grown up over the ages. No monkey gods for me. Those superstitious beliefs are just a distraction from an essential core truth. Really? Really? I think if he would prove or have proper reason why he's excluding this, that's one thing. If he has proper reasons why he's including other things, that's also one thing. But his reasoning is very, very weak at best. And then with an exclamation point saying something like, no monkey gods for me, I find that extremely disrespectful, and that really rubs me the wrong way. So I don't know, it just felt like after the first bit, feeling a little bit scientific and based on science, he was wandering into a non-scientific path more and more, and getting more and more sidetracked by his own agenda. And it's what I sadly encounter with a lot of Christians. It's like, I pick what confirms my theory and I dismiss everything else. And that's not a scientific approach. I'm sorry, it's not. And it just, no. I had high hopes, but no. It's a 1 star. I'm sorry. I had high hopes for this one too. Has the time finally come for humanity to transform its behavior and raise its consciousness to a new and better level? Was the first sentence. And I expected 3.5. Well, far off. I'm done with this one. I finished American Dirt. I do hope the audio is okay. I didn't bring my microphone to my trip, so I hope the audio is okay. American Dirt is about a Mexican woman who lives in Acapulco with her family, and her family pretty much gets murdered by the cartel, and only she and her son survive. And they then start to flee to El Norte. Such a good book. Such a good story. I enjoyed it so much. drew me in right from the start. I don't know what it was exactly. Something about the writing style, it just let me follow this very intensely and feel a relationship to these characters and everything. So at the end of the book, I was like, yes, this is a 5-star because I was invested in this story. Now, my only caveat was that I had no clue, like no clue whatsoever, how authentic it is. So I was like, okay, this is a 5-star for me, but I don't know if this portrayal is accurate or if this is just sheer out fantasy, if you know what I mean. So I did go on. So I did go online and check reviews to see how authentic this is supposed to be, and shoot, I came across devastating information. It's not authentic at all. And I mean, what do you expect from a white woman writing a novel about something that she doesn't know, really? And okay, so I'm really conflicted because I enjoyed this book nonetheless, but I do see. So when I was finished, I was like, okay, I'm ready to give this 5 stars because I was so invested. I really enjoyed the story so much. But the only thing was that I didn't know how authentic it was, and I just felt like the characters in here were so stereotypical in a way that it just felt hard to believe that they're authentic. These stereotypes and these stereotypical characters still made a really good story, but I was wondering if this potentially paints a wrong picture if you believe that this is the truth. Because we want to read this and believe that this is the truth because we feel like we educated ourselves, but I wasn't sure about it because it was so stereotypical. So I did go online, went onto Goodreads, looked at the 1-star reviews, and lo and behold, it's so far from authentic. It's like a white woman writing about something that she doesn't know, hasn't experienced, and her only research was reading other authors who had experienced these things. Whereas I'm like, okay, so if there's books out there talking about this, yeah. I don't know. This review is talking about Janine Cummings being like a white savior kind of deal because writing a book about this topic and not having experienced it. But then I'm also like, haven't we been calling for use your voice, use your platform? But then also I'm conflicting like, well, you should be elevating the own voices, right? But I don't know. I feel so conflicted about this, and this is bringing me into a whole mess in my mind because I enjoyed it. I do understand that is fantasy in a way, because when I read a fantasy, we do have very stereotypical characters as well, and it still makes a good story, and that's how I feel about this book. But the problem with it is that the stereotypes in here feed into our systemic racist minds, and I don't think that most people will be able to separate this or even acknowledge this, and that is problematic. I still enjoyed it so much, so I feel so conflicted. I don't know what to do about this book, so I don't know. I feel very, very sad about this. Very sad. I don't remember I don't remember what the rating for the first line was. I didn't bring my little paper with me. The first line was, one of the very first bullets comes in through the open window above the toilet where Luca is standing. I probably gave this a high rating. I don't know. But anyways, I don't know how to feel about this book. Have you guys read it? Let me know what you feel. When reading reviews about this, I, for the first time, came across the phrase trauma porn, and now I'm very conflicted if me gravitating towards heavy-hitting books because I'm a white woman is trauma porn. I don't want to think so, but I don't know. Oh, Gets me spiraling! Ah! What do you think? Please let me know what you think. So, the Superpirates Year 1. I really enjoyed this. This was a really weird mixture of having superheroes, and I'm usually not into superheroes, but the concept here is kind of interesting. So we have a world where we have people with powers, and if you can't control your powers, you're considered to be a coward. But if you get to the point where you're able to control your powers, you are a superpowered. And it's a very interesting dynamic, because having a world where you have people who can control their powers and people who can automatically creates two separate like classes in this world, which is interesting already in itself. But then this organization, they're doing a test, they're doing a trial where they have altered something so that they have a couple of powered kids that have now been turned into superpowered. And these couple of kids are being brought into a school that is there to pretty much make heroes. To become a hero, you have to get through this school, and every year there's people, there's less and less slots. You have like combat training, you have alternative training and everything, and it's very interesting. You have a very interesting dynamic between a couple of people. It has the school setting, which like a fantasy school setting, which is my favorite thing ever. Like fantasy, sci-fi, school settings are amazing. I love school settings, which this has done quite well. What I really liked about this too is how balanced the characters were. There was just something about the balance of the characters that really intrigued me. We didn't have, like, these characters had layers to them, and you didn't have like this one person who's the main chosen one or something. No, they're all in a way chosen because they were less privileged in a way. I don't know. But overall, I can say that I did enjoy it a lot. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I will definitely continue with the series. Yay! For another series that I started. Now, again, I will not be able to know what my rating was.
2 well-dressed men in black suits and black ties materialized outside of a small white brick building.
I probably gave this like 3 stars or something, but the book is definitely a 4-star. If you haven't heard of it and you like superheroes or you like school type settings, definitely check it out because it is a lot of fun. So I am making myself some coffee and porridge, and let's talk about Amy Tan's The 100 Secret Senses while we're waiting for the water to boil. Ooh, it's almost ready. Alright, so I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. The 100 Secret Senses is a book about 2 sisters who couldn't be any different. One is born in, well, was she born? I don't know, but Olivia is raised in San Francisco. She's a photographer. She's very like typical modern American, nothing special, I want to say. But she has a Chinese father, and his father also had a daughter who was raised in China and who is very weird. For 30 years, Olivia, the woman from San Francisco, so they bring, at one point, they bring Quan, the sister from China, over to the US, and they live there together. Well, not as adults in like the same house, but they live there. And Olivia has taken up with Quan's weirdness. Quan says that she has yin eyes, which allow her to see people who have died. The picture that is painted of Quan is that Quan is quite crazy, to be honest. And this all changes a little when they take on a trip to China, and that broadens Olivia's horizon. So I think that this is a book that I should have really liked, but I just could not engage with the characters at all. They like Olivia annoyed me so much. She is such a bitch. Hot. So yeah, Olivia just annoyed me so much. I could not handle it. It just she was mean. She was the reason. Like, Kwan is the sweetest personality, who's always nice, always like, oh, you're my favorite sister, and everything. And Olivia pretty much just is making fun of her. Is, I don't know, just it was too much. I love flawed characters, but I don't know what's happening this month that I cannot. I don't feel engaged by these books. I don't feel a connection, and so yeah, I don't know. So the first sentence was, my sister Kwan thinks she has yin eyes, and I'll put it on the screen what I thought it was. I'm potentially 3.54. I guess I did say it was. It is a 3-star, but I think that it deserves a little bit more because it is a good book with a good character development, with everything, and the flawed character has a development that is good and that I should like, but I just couldn't. I'm battling between 3 and 4 stars. Lockvogel is a crime thriller, which is really, it's actually really well done. All the pet peeves that I usually have with crime thrillers, mysteries, aren't done here. We have a detective who is a former cop, very tropey, I know. We have a woman who has been conned by her boyfriend out of her money, and she's trying to hire that detective, but she doesn't have any money, so she's offering her work as when she sees that this detective is completely lost without somebody helping him in his office. We also have a producer, I think, movies, etc., working with actors, and a rich his wife, very like famous, rich, etc. And we have a murder happening at their house, and it's all tied together, but it's not, and it's just it's well done. I like how it was resolved because I feel like you were able to guess it. There's enough clues throughout the book that it's not this big surprise at the end where like you're like, where did that come from? But it was also not too obvious. Maybe a little obvious, but maybe I just didn't guess it because I wasn't trying, and I don't read a lot of crime thrillers. But I think that you were able to guess it, but it wasn't too obvious, and it still was very believable. It wasn't. I feel like with crime thrillers, a lot of people are trying to surprise the reader so much that it gets so unbelievable and so out of left field, or like Mo said yesterday in the live stream, that the killer is being introduced in the last 50 pages, and you're like, how was I supposed to get to that conclusion myself, because you're just giving me crucial information in the end. Also, we don't have any weirdness at the end where another character has to explain the things that our main character cannot know. We don't have stupid police that is just stumbling about and doesn't know what they're doing. So overall, it's well done. It's entertaining, but I also think that it's not something that I'm going to be remembering. I also had no emotional ties to this. Maybe it's just not my genre, and that's why I'm not feeling a connection to this book. But it left me hanging, wanting more out of the reading experience. So that's why I'm struggling between 3 and 4. The first sentence is, every inch of his shirt stuck to his skin, and I predicted 3 out of 5 stars. So I think I was right. And then we have Meet Me in Paradise, which is the Once Upon a Book Club book of the month. It's a cute little story. It looks very much like a love story, meet cute on a plane. We have these two sisters. One is very adventurous, the other is very stay-at-home, trying to protect her and trying to be stable and everything. Doesn't do anything for herself, and she's kind of been tricked by the adventurous one to go on a trip and do something for herself. on the plane, she meets rich, handsome, perfect guy, and he gives her all the attention, and he's actually the owner of the resort that she's going to, and there's potential for a love triangle, and there's a lot of potential for cuteness and journey and etc. But it takes a turn where it becomes very serious as well. There's a different voice in there. So I think that people who are going in this expecting a cute love story will be disappointed, because there's an overshadowing, sad element that is very, very, very overshadowing, especially more towards the end. If you're going in for that part, the cutesy love story might be totally annoying. So I'm not sure where this is supposed to land. I just felt a disconnect, and I wasn't sure, like, what is this trying to be? So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was very easily to read. The writing style is very good for this genre, and that is well done. But I think that this book is having an identity crisis. The first sentence is, at our mother's funeral, I lost Sadie. And I predicted 4 out of 5 stars, so I was a little wrong. What can you do?
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?